It has been quite an incredible week in UK markets this week. We saw the British pound fall to a 50-year low versus the US dollar. We've seen gilt yields or government bond yields increase, and now markets are looking at interest rates hitting over 6% by next year in the UK. A lot going on. I'm joined by Guillaume Paillat. He's a Frenchman. He works on our multi-asset team. I'm an Irishman. We're both going to try and make sense of what is going on in the UK economy. Guillaume, can we start off with looking back to last Friday? There was the fiscal announcement or the mini budget, and things started to unravel from there. Just talk us through what was announced.
Yes, Shane, we'd been warned that Liz Truss was preparing a fiscal stimulus, but that mini budget actually turned into a massive tax giveaway. Lower income tax for high earners, reduced stamp duty on housing, reversing plans to increase corporation taxes and national insurance tax as well. So yeah, we ended up with the biggest tax cut in 50 years here.
Yeah, and I mean, in some ways, I guess that would appear to be good news, but it just seems like unusual timing. And I have to be honest, I kind of was left scratching my head wondering what the whole objective was here. I mean, can you just talk through what they're trying to achieve?
Well, yeah, that's the strategy to address the cost of living crisis that we're in at the moment. That's why it's called the 2022 growth plan. And the idea is you give people more money through tax cuts, and that will sort of stimulate spending and investment, hoping that wealthier people will spend that money. It's really trickle down economics type approach.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sold, to be totally honest. And I mean, markets don't seem to be either. To fund these massive tax cuts, which are estimated at 45 billion, and some subsidies for the energy crisis, which I think are estimated to be about 60 billion, that requires a lot of additional government borrowing. And we've seen gilt yields or UK government bond yields increase substantially over the last week. I mean, Guillaume, can you give us an update on what's going on in bond markets?
Yes, as you said, governments need to borrow more, and markets are telling us that you can't borrow your way to a low tax economy at the moment, especially when interest rates and inflation are very high already. And so gilt yields, the government borrowing costs spiked from 3% earlier this month all the way to 4.5%. So clearly showing lack of market confidence to finance that plan and absorb more debt, and effectively the risk is higher interest rates will hurt borrowers, mortgages. For example, we saw mortgage lenders pulling out of the market this week, and effectively the Bank of England had to intervene. They spent 60 billion to buy gilts on the market on Wednesday and effectively stop yields from rising, as the rise was too fast, creating financial instability.
Yeah, so it seems like this is causing challenges at a country borrowing level, but also at an individual level with, mortgages and such like. The pound has also been in free fall. I mean, what's the latest there?
Yes, and yeah, as you said, the pound, all-time lows versus the US dollar, down 5% versus the euro this month. As we know, the UK runs a large current account deficit with the rest of the world, which means that, when the currency falls, it makes imports more expensive, and the UK imports a lot, which is really part of the problem here. So some commentators have branded the currency the Great British Peso even.
Yes, there's been a lot of commentary around the Great British Peso, but also that comparison between the UK and an emerging market. I mean, I'm not sure how fair that is, Guillaume. I know that this week it was quite unusual. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, came in with some pretty stark statements around some of the measures that have been taken in the UK, really questioning them. Usually you hear the IMF come in to intervene with emerging markets when you see spiraling interest rates, inflation, depreciating currencies. It is a bit unusual to hear commentary from the IMF on a developed market like the UK. So how fair is this comparison to an emerging market? How worried should we be?
Yeah, I think the UK is unlikely to default on its debt like emerging markets because it borrows in sterlings, and so it prints in its own currency. So the risk here is more higher cost of borrowing for everyone in the UK, or weaker currency pushing inflation higher for longer. And that's where the tough choices are for the Bank of England. It's like, either you defend sterling by hiking rates aggressively, but, people will feel a pinch. There's going to be a recession. You let the currency fall, but you're not going to accept higher inflation, which means the cost of living issue is going to get worse anyway. So you got to pay for your spending somehow, and there's really no good options here. Really, the ball is with the government to try and reassure markets that their debt plans are sustainable.
Yeah, there are no easy options. I mean, thankfully, in the last couple of days, we've seen a bit of stability. Hopefully that continues. We're looking at this all the time. It's an evolving story. I've no doubt we'll be back talking about it again. Guillaume, that was a great whistle-stop tour of a lot of things that are going on in a very busy week. We will be back next week. We will put a fund manager on the spot. Until then, take care.